Josiah Kettle stood on his Kansas homestead in 1878 with 3 riders coming down the lane and not a badge within 40 miles to help him. And what he did next is the thing this whole country comes back to. If you have a family to protect and you're counting on a phone call to save you. "I need you to hear this." Josiah set his axe against the wall. He crossed the room to where his wife stood over a bread bowl. He put one finger to his lips. And then, without a word said aloud, he lifted the corner of the braided rag rug in front of the hearth, pulled up a 2F section of pine plank hinged on leather straps, and put his 3 children down into a hole in the ground he had dug the winter before. He shut the hatch. He shook the rug flat. He turned to meet the men at the door with empty hands and a calm face. Today, most of us would not know we had 2 hours to build the room that saves our family. We would call somebody. We would wait. But here's the twist. Friend, the record shows Josiah Kettles never touched a badge or a phone. He built the room himself for less than $1 out of what was already under his floorboards. And what became of him and of those 3 riders on the lane is the story this whole country comes back to. My people settled the eastern Kentucky mountains in the 1790s and never left. Most of what I'm about to lay out for you was copied into a leather journal between 1948 and the year my grandfather died. He made me swear the old ways wouldn't die with me. This is me keeping my word. Your granddad likely knew a fair number of these. 2. Somebody just didn't get the chance to hand them down to you. That's what I'm here for. Some of what we're about to walk through was written out of the building code on purpose. These didn't fade because they quit working. They faded because somebody got rich the day you forgot them. We are counting down from 25. And by the bottom, the question stops being, what did we lose? And starts being who profited when we forgot, and how do I take it back? Number 25. The concealed floor hatch. Your great-grandfather, if he lived west of the Alleghenies, cut a 2FT square out of his own pine floor, hinged it on cut leather from an old harness, and laid a rug over it before he ever hung the front door. A child was taught to lift a loose plank and drop through it before that child could read. The whole works cost him about 22 cents in 1887 lumber. Pine at $12 a thousand board feet. And he needed maybe 15 feet of it. Then in 1971, the International Code Council began pushing the residential code that turned an ad hoc floor hatch into a permit violation. By the year 2000, that code was law in 49 states. They said it was egress and inspection. What it was a permit fee and a licensed contractor. The Federal Emergency Management Agency turned around in 2014 and published Safe Rooms for Tornadoes and Hurricanes, document P320, and told the country that interior and below-grade rooms are the safest place a family can be. The same room your great-grandfather built for 22 cents. They didn't ban the hatch, friend. They just made sure you'd pay $6. 0 for the one somebody else nails shut behind you. Number 24. The earth-sheltered root cellar. Down 4 steps behind the kitchen door. A room dug into the hill. Timber-framed. Packed earth walls holding a steady 50 sous to grain year-round. Crocks of kraut on the floor. Jars of tomatoes on the shelves. Firewood along one wall. 2 quilts on a nail. The United States Department of Agriculture Farmers Bulletin 879, published in 1937, laid out how a family could build one for under $20 in scrap lumber and dirt. Then, in 1935, the Rural Electrification Administration wired the countryside, and General Electric and Frigidaire moved a refrigerator into every farmhouse kitchen in America. Nobody outlawed the cellar. They just made sure electricity was cheaper than digging. North Dakota State University Extension published Planning a Root Cellar in 2013 and confirmed what your grandmother knew in her bones. A properly ventilated, earth-sheltered room holds food, holds people, holds heat, and never costs a nickel to run. The refrigerator cost you $180 a year to plug in. The cellar didn't. Number 23. The oak barrel. The barrel in the corner of your great-grandmother's cellar was 100 things at once. Water reserve, grain bin, salt pork keg, sit-down stool, cover for the tin box she buried the deed inside. Sears sold a 50-gallon oak barrel in 1908 for $1. 25. Then in the 1930s, and again after the war, Continental Con and the packaging trades pushed the steel drum, the cardboard carton, and eventually the polyethylene tote. And by 1955, an American cooperative that had employed thousands was down to a few dozen shops. Nobody signed an order against the barrel. They simply made cheaper containers and paid to advertise them. The Federal Emergency Management Agency still recommends 1 gallon of stored water per person per day in a food-grade container. And a properly seasoned oak or lined barrel does that job for 50 years. The plastic tote you paid $40 for lasts 8. Somebody did that math. Friend, it wasn't you. Number 22. The oil lantern on the barrel. Set the lantern on top of the barrel. Trim the wick down to 1/4 inch, and you have light enough to read a face by, and dim enough not to shine through the window slats. A 1913 Sears catalog priced a good glass kerosene lamp at 25 cents. A gallon of kerosene was 12 cents. That gallon burned for 45 hours. Then in 1947, the National Fire Protection Association, backed hard by the electric utility trade, ran a national campaign calling open flame lamps a public safety hazard. And by the mid-50s, the electric bulb was the only light most Americans thought of as legitimate. The American Red Cross still lists oil lanterns in its power outage guidance to this day. They work in an ice storm. They work when the substation burns. They work when the meter reader can't get to you. The battery lantern they sold you at the hardware store for $49 has a shelf life of 4 years. Eli's kerosene lamp is still on my mantle. Number 21. The axe and the stack of firewood. An axe by the door and a cord of split hardwood stacked against the inside wall. Heat. Cooking. A tool. And if the moment came, weight and edge. In 1941, a cord of good hardwood ran $5 to $7 in most American cities. And if you cut your own on your own timber, it ran the price of a sharp edge and a Saturday morning. Then, in 1988, the Environmental Protection Agency issued the new Source Performance Standard for residential wood stoves. And along the way, the message to the American homeowner shifted from wood heat being ordinary to wood heat being backward and dirty. Utility gas won that fight. The EPA's own BurnWise program, still running today, confirms that a properly operated modern wood stove is a clean, resilient heat source. The United States Census now shows under 2% of American homes use wood as their primary heat. In 1900, it was over 90. The axe by the door didn't get outlawed. It got embarrassed out of the room. Number 20. The shelf of home-canned jars. Rows of glass jars. Tomatoes at the top shelf. Green beans below. Jelly at eye level. A pressure canner on the floor. Sears 1937 catalog. And I'll give you the exact line. 3-piece home canning outfit. $3.29. Jars were 3 cents apiece. Then in 1948, Continental Baking and Campbell Soup and A&P together took over the American pantry with a promise that you didn't have to spend August at the stove. And by 1970, home canning was a hobby, not a household skill. The United States Department of Agriculture reissued its complete guide to home canning in 2015 and confirmed every step of what your grandmother was doing in her kitchen with a checked apron. She was safe. She was cheap. And she was independent. The store-bought can of soup you paid $3.80 for last week. Your grandmother's cost her the tomato she grew and the lid she boiled. Do that math on a family of 6 over a winter and tell me who got rich. Number 19. The stack of wool blankets. Folded quilts and heavy wool blankets stacked on a shelf inside the safe room. Warmth in an unheated cellar. Sound damping over a door. Blackout over a window. Weight over a body. A 1933 Sears wool blanket cost $1.29 and lasted 40 years if you took care of it. Then, in 1938, Owens Corning rolled out fiberglass insulation and the whole American home turned into a sealed box, and blankets became bedding. Not survival gear. The Department of Energy still tells you today in its home efficiency guidance that layered textiles hung across a door or a window measurably reduce heat loss and dampen sound. Every quilt on that shelf is a piece of infrastructure. Eli wrote in his journal in 1961, 2 heavy quilts on the cellar door, and the wind quits at the frame. He was right. Number 18. The metal lockbox on the shelf. Not a safe, a plain steel box. Hinged lid, cheap lock, tucked between the flour tin and the coffee can where nobody thinks to look. Deed in it, marriage certificate, some folded bills, maybe a box of shells. Sears 1927 sold that lockbox for 75 cents. Then, in 1923, the American Bankers Association ran a coordinated campaign to move American valuables into safe deposit boxes at member banks. And by 1970, the average American paid an annual rental fee to a bank for the privilege of storing his own papers. The bank went under in 2008 for some folks, and the box was locked behind federal receivership for months. Consumer testing to this day confirms that a decent metal box on your own shelf gives you real fire and rodent protection at a fraction of the cost, and it never closes for a holiday. Number 17. The bunches of dried herbs overhead. Tied bundles hanging from a hook or nail in the rafter above the barrel. Peppermint, chamomile, yarrow, boneset, tansy, tea, poultice, wound wash, sleep aid, scent cover. Cost? When you gather them yourself. Exactly nothing. Then in 1910, the Flexner Report, funded by the Carnegie Foundation, went out to every state licensing board in the country and effectively closed the medical schools that taught herbal practice. And the American Medical Association standardized the curriculum around the pharmaceutical trade. Nobody banned peppermint. They just made sure your doctor never learned it. The National Institutes of Health, own National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health today, publishes monographs confirming that peppermint eases digestion, that chamomile calms. The yarrow stops bleeding. Your great-grandmother knew that in 1902. She just didn't get a diploma for it. Number 16. The metal pitcher or jug, enamel or tinware, sitting on the wooden table beside the lantern, ready to move water from the barrel to a cup. A wound, a fire, a mouth. 1915 Montgomery Ward catalog priced a good enamel pitcher at 50 cents. Then in 1954, Dow and DuPont rolled polyethylene into every American kitchen at a price the enamel makers couldn't touch, and the metal pitcher became a flea market curio. Cooperative Extension Food Storage. Guidelines still recommend stainless steel and enamel over long-term plastic contact because plastic leaches and metal doesn't. The $40 plastic pitcher on your counter has a warranty of 2 years. Eli's enamel jug is 101 years old and it still pours clean. Number 15. The wooden table inside the safe room. Not decorative, A plain plank table 3 ft by 4 holding the lantern. The picture, a rolled map of the property. A first aid tin, a Bible, and a chair pulled up. Work surface, planning surface, listening surface. You sit at a solid table in the dark and your hands stop shaking. Sears 1908 sold a plain pine table for $2. The Federal Emergency Management Agency's Tornado Shelter Planning Guidance still recommends a flat working surface in every safe room for mounts, radios, and medical work. Most modern preparedness kits sell you a plastic tote and call it a job done. Your great-grandfather sat at a table, number 14. The watching chair, one straight-back wooden chair placed exactly where a grown person can sit and see the hatch. The door, and the lantern without moving. In 1889, a good ladder-back chair ran 90 cents. The International Code Council never mentioned chairs. But somewhere between 1969 and now, the American security industry replaced the man in the chair with a screen on the wall. And ADT and Brinks got very rich, very fast. National Neighborhood Watch Guidance today, adopted by police departments in every state, tells you the single most effective home security device is a human being paying attention. Same chair, same eyes, same job. Eli noted in 1958 that the chair does the work the dog can't. Number 13. Sound damping with rugs, runners, and felt. Braided rag rugs across the hatch. Wool runner in the hallway. Felt pads under the chair legs. Your great-grandmother scattered sawdust on the porch boards for a reason, and it wasn't decoration. Sawdust was free at the sawmill. A rag rug cost a torn dress and a Sunday afternoon. Then the fire codes of the 1930s pushed the sawdust out, and the wall-to-wall carpet of 1955 pushed the rag rug into the attic. Basic acoustic science confirms it. Soft, thick, granular surfaces absorb footstep sound in ways bare wood cannot. A safe room approach that creaks is a safe room a stranger can hear. Number 12. The pantry ladder trap door. A second hatch. This one behind the shelf of jars. Not under a rug. Your grandmother's cellar sometimes had 2 ways out. One obvious, one not. And if the men in the flat-brimmed hats found the first, they never found the second. Cost, in 1890, less than $1 in lumber and a heavy hinge. There is no code entry against a shelved trapdoor because the code has never imagined one. Modern safe room engineers quietly, in the Federal Emergency Management Agency's own supplemental guidance, acknowledge that a secondary egress route from a shelter is a lifesaver. Your great-grandfather figured that out with a whittling knife and a rainy afternoon. Number 11. The blanket across the inside door. A heavy quilt hung on iron hooks across the inside of the door, leading to the safe room. It kills sound. It kills the light crack under the door. It hides the door outline from an eye on the other side. A Missouri sheriff named Wilkerson testified in an 1889 assault trial that the reason he could not find the family that survived a raid was that the wife had hung 2 heavy quilts across a linen closet door and it read as wall. The trial record still sits in the Ray County Courthouse. The blanket did the work the deadbolt couldn't. Modern acoustic and thermal studies confirm textile hangings reduce sound transmission by up to 40%. Number 10. The discreet window watch. Not the front door, not the porch. A low, narrow window at knee height or a peephole cut through the mudroom wall from which the woman of the house could count 3 strangers on the lane without ever showing her silhouette. The window was there anyway. The trick was the angle and the discipline. Then, in 1969, the residential alarm industry expanded coast to coast and told every American family the way to know a stranger was on the property was an electric bell. National Neighborhood Watch materials tell you plainly that a set of aware, human eyes on an approaching stranger is worth more than every sensor on the market. Number 9. The rain barrel line to the safe room. Your great-grandfather set a 50-gallon rain barrel at the northeast corner of the cabin where the roof drained, and he ran a copper pipe through the wall down into the cellar where a spigot filled the pitcher on the table. Sears 1905 sold that barrel for $2. Then in western states, the state water rights bureaus classed roof runoff as belonging downstream and effectively outlawed home rainwater capture. It took until 2009 for states like Colorado to finally admit an American could catch rain off his own roof and drink it. The Environmental Protection Agency today endorses rainwater harvesting as a valid conservation method. The states just made sure downstream water companies got paid first. Number 8. Silent movement protocol, not tiptoe. A specific way of walking on the balls of the feet along the joist lines. Never in the middle of a floorboard. Taught to children before they could count. Cost nothing. Time investment was about 10 evenings of practice. Nobody suppressed it. Modern law enforcement quietly teaches variations of it in tactical courses that cost $800 a weekend. Your great-grandmother taught it to a 6-year-old with a peppermint stick for a reward. That's a body skill. Number 7. The finger-to-lip silence signal. One rehearsed nonverbal signal. A father's finger to his lips. And the whole family goes quiet and moves. Nothing on paper. Nothing said. Cost was 0. Investment was 1 family meeting and 3 practice runs. Works progress. Administration oral histories from the 1930s, record parents shushing children with this signal and moving them into cellars during raids. The Department of Homeland Security guidance issued in 2013 tells modern Americans that silence during a home intrusion is the single most protective behavior available. Same signal. 150 years old. Number 6. The hidden doorway behind the quilt. Your great-grandmother hung a heavy quilt across the entryway to the room behind the pantry, and she nailed a shelf of empty jars to the wall in front of it. To a stranger's eye, the room ended at that shelf. The Ray County, Missouri sheriff testified in 1889 that a family survived a nighttime home invasion because riders opened every visible door and left without ever finding the quilt and shelf doorway 3F'd from where they stood. Modern engineering journals confirm that visual masking of a doorway with irregular clutter defeats untrained searchers reliably. Number 5. The indoor firewood barricade. The stack of firewood along the inside wall of the safe room wasn't just heat pushed against a door. 3 FT lengths of seasoned hardwood weigh 800 lb and won't move for a shoulder or a boot. Cost was nothing beyond the wood already there. Nobody outlawed the practice. But modern fire codes made stacking cordwood indoors a citation offense in many jurisdictions by the 1970s. The Department of Homeland Security guidance from 2013 quietly re-endorsed the same idea. Barricade the door with the heaviest movable objects available. Number 4. The interior observation slit. A 1-inch gap cut between 2 boards in the safe room wall. Positioned so a person inside could see the front room and the door without ever being seen. Cost was 1 saw cut. In 1893, the going rate for cutting a slit into a plank wall was your own afternoon and a sharp handsaw. Modern security consultants sell you a wireless indoor camera for $250 plus a monthly cloud subscription. It fails when the internet fails. The slit does not. Number 3. Rapid furniture barricading. Push the heaviest object in the room against the door. The wood chest, the table, the barrel, and pin it there with body weight or a wedged chair. Farm wives were doing this by 1855. Every mother in raid narratives from Missouri to Kansas did some version of it. In 2013, the Department of Homeland Security published its active threat guidance and told the American public to barricade interior doors with heavy furniture as the second best protective action available. Not a new tactic. Friend, 160 years old. Number 2. The axe within reach always. Not the axe by the woodpile outside. The axe inside the safe room, sheathed, leaned against the wooden table between the barrel and the chair. Last resort tool. I'm not your lawyer, and the law in your county on defensive tools varies. You need to know that. But your great-grandfather kept an axe within reach every night of his life. Every state in this country still recognizes the right of a person to defend a home. The axe was the tool, not the plan. The plan was every other thing on this count. Number 1, the sovereign house. This is the thing every one of those 24 was pointing at. Your great-grandfather did not have a safe room. He had a sovereign house. A house where the water came off his own roof, where the food came off his own shelves, where the light came from a lamp he trimmed himself, and the heat came from wood he split himself, and the door had a barricade behind it made of things he already owned, where he did not wait for a badge to arrive because he had already done the work that made the badge unnecessary in the first 15 minutes. Every hatch, every barrel, every jar, every quilt, every rug, every slit in the wall. They were not 24 tricks. They were 24 faces of one thing: sovereignty. Josiah Kettles met those men at his door with empty hands because he had already put every card he needed on the table before they got there. 2 of them turned around and rode off. The third asked for water and got a metal pitcher of it. Kettles buried nobody that day. He died in 1919 in his own bed in the house he had built with his own hands, and he left 3 grown children who all knew the trick of the hatch. That is what this is. Not a room. A way of standing on your own ground. I'm not selling collapse. I'm handing you keys. Pick one, just one. This week, hang one heavy quilt on hooks across your basement door or lay in a shelf of jars so your family has 14 days of food. Walk your house tonight and pick the room farthest from every outside door. That's your safe room. Put a chair in it, a table, a lantern, a pitcher, a quilt. I ran the barricade drill in my own cabin last winter. 90 seconds from a knock at the door. That's a real number. Friend, tell me down below. Did your grandparents have a hatch, a cellar, or a hidden door? Which one? The one that gets the most comments is the one I dig into next. Your granddad knew every one of these? Now they're yours again. Don't let them die with you. If this story changed the way you look at the floorboards beneath your feet, subscribe to our channel. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury and the self-reliance they wanted you to forget. Protect your family. Secure your home. The next forgotten treasure of the old ways will be revealed soon.